First, it was Uttar Pradesh Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath who warned against Love Jihad, saying his government will work on a law against forced conversions. Now, the Haryana government is introducing a similar law. This comes just days after 21-year-old Nikita Tomar was shot dead by Tausif in Delhi suburb of Faridabad. The Love Jihad angle in the case is still under investigation. Is a Love Jihad law legally tenable? Will a Love Jihad law lead to a real crackdown, or will this become a tool for persecution?
अगर वे सुधरे नहीं तो राम नाम सत्य है कि यात्रा अब निकलने वाली है.
Anger on the streets of Ballabgarh. Fury over the murder of 21-year-old Nikita Tomar, who was shot dead in daylight. The victim's family alleges Love Jihad was behind Nikita's murder. Her parents allege the main accused, Tausif, had been harassing her for the last 2 years and pressing her to marry him. They claim Tausif was trying to convert Nikita to Islam. Now 3 BJP-ruled states, Haryana, Uttar Pradesh and Madhya Pradesh, are considering framing laws to check this alleged love jihad.
देखिए, बहुत ही एक ऐसी घटना हुई है जिसकी जितनी निंदा की जाए उतनी कम है, क्योंकि ये विषय लव जिहाद के साथ जोड़ करके देखा जा रहा है. लव जिहाद वाला विषय भी इसके ऊपर बाकायदा विचार चल रहा है और केंद्रीय स्तर पर भी और प्रदेश स्तर पर भी हम इसको बहुत गंभीरता से ले रहे हैं.
The first proposal for the law against alleged love jihad came from UP Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath. He cited a recent ruling of the Allahabad High Court which said religious conversion for the sake of marriage is unacceptable.
धर्म परिवर्तन करना शादी के लिए आवश्यक नहीं है. और भाइयों बहनों, लव जिहाद की समस्या पर भी सख्ती से अंकुश लगाने का कार्य सरकार करने जा रही है. बहुत सख्ती के साथ अंकुश लगाने का कार्य करेगी.
Adityanath also gave a hint of how stringent the proposed law could be.
अब देश में चोरी छुपे, नाम छुपा करके, स्वरूप छुपा करके जो लोग बहन बेटियों की इज्जत के साथ खिलवाड़ करते हैं, उनको पहले से मेरी चेतावनी, अगर वे सुधरे नहीं तो राम नाम सत्य है कि यात्रा अब निकलने वाली है.
The opposition is clearly unimpressed.
बीजेपी आरएसएस एक मंसूबाबंद तरीके से मुसलमानों के खिलाफ कुछ ना कुछ कहती रहती है ताकि मुसलमानों के खिलाफ नफरत भड़काया जाए.
Religious leaders too are up in arms over the issue.
शादीशुदा लोग कुंवारी लड़कियों के साथ कर रहे हैं, अपनी एज छुपाकर, अपना नाम बदलकर. तो ये कोई ऐसी बात नहीं कि जिसको मुसलमान ही कर रहा है, इसको तो हिंदू भी कर रहा है. ये तो इनको सिर्फ वोट बैंक हासिल करने के लिए, वोट लेने के लिए, जब भी इलेक्शन आता है या तो इनको पाकिस्तान याद आता है, या आतंकवाद याद आता है, या लव जिहाद याद आता है.
क्या एक हिंदू युवती किसी मुस्लिम लड़के के प्यार को नकार नहीं सकती है? क्या उसने नकार दिया इसके लिए उसकी हत्या करेंगे? इन सब बातों से जो आज भारत में लव जिहाद की घटनाएं बढ़ रही है, उसके बारे में पर्दा उठ गया है.
The Union Ministry of Home Affairs had earlier said that the term love jihad is not defined under any existing law. In a written reply to the parliament, the centre has also said that no cases of love jihad were reported by any of the central agencies. Critics fear that the law against the alleged love jihad could end up as a tool to harass interfaith couples. In Lucknow with cameraman Neeraj, Abhishek Mishra for India Today.
You know, the BJP, the Sangh Parivar, is convinced that there is a grand conspiracy where Hindu girls are being lured by Muslim boys who initially hide their identity and then marry them only to later reveal that they're Muslims and then force the conversion. So therefore the Love Jihad bill is against those forced conversions. But then there are also so many couples where the boy and the girl married across their religion despite knowing who the person was and falling in love with him for the person that he is or she is, and therefore would be deeply uncomfortable with the idea that there'll be others who'll be trying to decide whether the love is real or is this some kind of jihad or war. Joining me on the Newstrack, I want to welcome first and foremost Dr. Sambit Patra, representing the ruling Bharatiya Janata Party. Squaring off against him, we have Dr. T.A. Rahmani, National Secretary of the STPI, the political wing of the Popular Front of India. Now, I have two authors and academicians. I want to introduce Mihir Srivastava, author of the book Love Jihadis, and we have Dr. Geeta Bhatt, well-known academician. I want to go across first and foremost to Dr. Sambit Patra. Can you explain, Dr. Patra, because you understand the law well, why you think a law against love jihad needs to be brought? Why you think what the Uttar Pradesh government, the Haryana government and the Madhya Pradesh government are saying and doing is correct, and why it's about high time that we have a law against forced conversions? Dr. Patra.
See, number one, first, as far as the UP and the Haryana government are concerned, I have gone through as to what the statements of the ministers were. They are saying that we are contemplating a law and we have sought legal advice as to how we can, in fact, formulate certain legal dimensions to stop any kind of deceptive marriage or forced conversion. So just to use the word love jihad would not be sufficient over here. What constitutes a love jihad, in fact, which is illegal, is marriage by deception, because we have seen in many cases, including Nikita Tomar, which is a recent case. In Nikita Tomar's case, Tausif was introduced to Nikita Tomar as Rahul initially, and later we came to know that he was Tausif. So this is deception, and there are umpteen number of examples. Remember Tara Sahdev, who was one of the tall sportsmen of this country, a shooter of this country from Jharkhand, and in fact she had complained as to how her husband, former husband rather, had deceived her by hiding his real identity, and later she realized that he was a Muslim. They got divorced. And the second thing, what Mr. Yogi Adityanath ji, the Chief Minister of Uttar Pradesh, rightly said, pointed towards two judgments. One of the recent Allahabad High Court judgment, and even the Allahabad High Court judgment pointed towards the Noor Begum judgment of 2014, in which both the high courts have categorically stated that forced conversion only for the purpose of marriage is not justified. So naturally, when in fact the courts of this country said that something is not justified, then we have to bring it within the ambits of legality. We have to see to it that people are deterred. There is a deterrence that if you forcefully convert someone only for the purpose of marriage, or you deceive someone for marriage, the law of this country is not going to spare you.
Mihir Srivastava, Sambit Patra eloquently explains how this is not about interfaith marriage where you know that your partner is not from the same religion and yet you choose to do this. He says this is more about forced conversions, marriage by deception, and forced conversion for marriage is not acceptable. Would there be anything amiss if such a law is brought? You've researched love jihad. What did you find, and why do you believe that this isn't such a wise idea?
I don't think it's a wise idea at all. As an adult, I have also the right to get deceived. It is, I have faith in my judgment. I don't need to be told whether I want to be deceived or not. It is my fundamental right. If I today am a Muslim and want to follow Sadhguru, I don't need somebody to tell me you are being deceived. See, deception is part of various, and presuming it's a deception. See, as far as the cases that I have investigated in Western UP, Meerut, and I don't belong to any of those left or right. You know, my whole idea of this book, Love Jihadi, was to travel and see what is the matter. So I went to a family that was accused of love jihad, and the people around them were accused of masterminding the love jihad as a phenomenon across the country. And what I found was that a Hindu girl was teaching English in a madrasa. And I thought, to start with, it's a beautiful thing. And then she falls in love with a Muslim guy, and they start dating. And of course, it was hidden. And now she decides to marry her. And she had to confront her family. She was locked up in her house. Ultimately, she ran away. She ran away to a Mahila Thana and remained there for a year before she was produced before the High Court. And she said, the guy who has been accused with set of his neighbors as having gang raped me is actually my husband. And it was the Allahabad High Court we sent this girl Shalu back to her family, which is these Muslim family.
Can I pause you for a moment,
Yeah.
Mihir Srivastav, and say I'm surprised that you say that deception is a fundamental right. I don't understand how. If you're being deceived, how is that okay? Now, I am totally okay if a boy or a girl from any language willingly marries somebody else. How can deception be a fundamental right? I don't understand that.
At the end of it all our social interactions are based on an element of projection. It's not just about religion, it's about, and when two people meet, they want to present a good picture. But having said that, see, there might be one or two cases of deception. Like, for instance, there are so many cases I have reported where a Punjabi man has married a Punjabi farmer's daughter, rich daughter from a landed property family, and went to the US, and it turned out to be something else. So will you pass a law saying that, this kind of deception doesn't take place? At the end of it all, I have a fundamental faith in people's ability to make their decisions. Sometimes they will be
No, but
wrong,
if a Punjabi boy pretends to be like this landed farmer and he's not, there are provisions under the Indian Penal Code to prosecute that Punjabi farmer.
No.
You can't just say that I deceived you and that's fine because deception is my fundamental right. Mihir Srivastav, you're making no sense.
Rahul.
I can't hear you.
I'm saying you're making no sense if this Punjabi farmer pretends to be a landed farmer with acres and acres of land. The girl comes to the US and discovers he's a cab driver. The girl can file a case against him under existing provisions of the Indian Penal Code. That is cheating, and how can you be okay with that? How can you say that it's okay that she got deceived? So be it.
When a girl realized that the guy she ended up marrying was a Muslim, she filed for a divorce. And she got a divorce. So what's the big deal? Why do I need the state to step in and tell me these are the kind of people you got to marry and these kind of people you don't need to marry? I don't need safeguards.
Just a second. Rahul, I really need to come in.
Dr. Patra is itching to come in and have a go, but the point that you're making is this.
I can't see Dr. Patra.
That's fine. That's fine.
Sure.
Just 1 second. Dr. Patra, Mihir's most cogent point is that the boy and the girl have the right to decide who they want to marry. And yes, there are marriages that can go wrong. There are existing provisions under the Indian Penal Code which you can act on. You don't need a separate and new law. Respond, Dr. Patra.
I have never heard, with all due respect to Mihir ji, I have never heard a more ridiculous argument. I mean, his argument began with a statement saying that right to be deceived is a fundamental right. I mean, that's a fundamental wrong thing, sir. How can it be a fundamental right of us? Sir, Mihir ji, can I please continue? I mean, right to be deceived can never...
I said I have a right to be wrong. I don't need you to correct me.
Can I please?
If I do something
I know you are a great being, but please allow me my time.
I know you are even a greater being.
Sir,
and I mean, I have no doubt
sir.
about
Sir,
your
please
greatness,
allow me.
sir.
Okay, Mihir Srivastav, you must allow Sambit Patra the
this,
same courtesy he extended you. He didn't agree a bit with what you were saying, but he heard you out. You must do the same.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
Please carry on, Mr. Patra.
See, Rahul, never in my life I have heard someone say that right to be deceived is a fundamental right. Why do we have laws in this country or in any country for that matter of purpose so that no one deceives anyone? Then he goes ahead. When you were in fact squaring against him and you asked him this pertinent question, he says that so what? There is a right to projection. We have a right to appear good. So in fact, if Ramchandra Guha becomes Iqbal Mirchi and presents himself in someone's home and says that I'm Iqbal Mirchi, just because he feels that he wants to be projected, then I firmly believe that Mr. Ramchandra should be penalized. You have no business of projecting you in a wrong manner. Thirdly, I mean, astonishingly, I gave you an example of a great shooter of this country, Tara Shahdev. I said that she was deceived. Her husband was a Muslim who had initially argued that he is Rakesh, later turned out to be Rakib, and in fact she got a divorce. Just imagine the ordeal that lady must have been through. And you say, what's the big deal about it? At the end, she got a divorce. She was tortured. She was forced to be converted. She did not agree for conversion. She was tortured by her in-laws and she had to go through all these ordeal. And you say, what is so big deal about it? I'm sorry, sir. There's something fundamentally wrong about your arguments.
Can I butt in now?
Okay, very quick interjection, but I need to go across to my other guests as well.
Yeah, very. I mean, you cannot take isolated cases to generalize your argument. And this, I have to say, you cannot. I have 10,000 cases which says that two individuals, poor people, wanted to marry, and the whole state got into it to prevent them from marrying. Some even died. But I am so glad that there are strong girls and boys in this country who can stand up to that pressure. You cannot generalize by quoting an isolated case, Dr. Patra.
Okay, Dr. Ramasham is the co-founder of the Society for Awareness of Harmony and Equal Rights, Sahir. The argument being made is this: forced conversion is not okay, marriage by deception is not okay, and if you are deceived into marriage and you discover later that the person you fell in love with is of a religion that is different from the one that you were led to believe, governments in Uttar Pradesh and Haryana think it's time to bring a law. Why are you uncomfortable, Dr. Shah?
And I would want to say that your just stated are wrong. Deception is wrong. I speak as a woman here. Deception is wrong. Conversion is wrong.
Okay, give me a moment. I'm going to fix that audio connection with you, and I'm going to come back and then resume this conversation. But till then, let me put that question to Dr. Geeta Bhatt, because the argument that Mihir Srivastav makes is this, that there is immense possibility of misuse. Boys and girls can fall in love at that across religions, and at that time society will not accept it, and they'll come in and create problems for that couple. So the possibility of harassment, if there is such a law that is brought, is very high. Dr. Bhatt.
Well, Rahulji, when we talk about, interfaith relationships or marriage, it is something which is very much feasible, because we are, we are in the, largest democracy of the world, and our constitution also fully gives us rights, as well as there is a special marriage act which gives us a provision where no one has to change its religion to live together. So that all is very true, but the fact is that there are many cases which have been reported where the deception of posing as of some other religion and trying to take the confidence of a girl, marrying and then forcibly converting is something that is being coined as love jihad, and it is something which even the Kerala Chief Minister Achyutanandan had categorically stated and had said that there are many organizations like Popular Front of India who are pumping in money and converting non-Muslim girls. And this is one of the most easiest way of going into conversion. So love jihad is truly, it's not a doomsday prophecy. It is a very clear and present danger which many girls in this country, and specifically non-Muslim girls, they are facing. There is, if someone comes forth with the religious identity which one has and then goes ahead and has a relationship, that it is a consensual relationship. If two adults are there, no one has a problem with that.
Okay,
but
Dr. Rahmani, the charge against the Popular Front of India, of which the SDPI is the political front, is this: that there is a grand conspiracy. The BJP RSS have alleged that money comes in from Saudi Arabia in the past, and that this is pumped across. Muslim boys are given this money in different parts of the country. They go to Hindu women and they make them fall in love, or they get them to fall in love without revealing that they're actually Muslim and that they're not Hindu, and therefore get the girl to convert later. And if this is done, there will now be an act against this. Dr. Rahmani.
Rahul, I have very small, very short, 3 submissions only. We have sufficient existing laws regarding the concealed identity, deception, forced marriage, and forced conversion, etc. And we have provisions for the punishment for these crimes. These are crimes irrespective of the religion. So we don't need any further law for this one. Number 2, I don't know what will be the draft of the bill or what will be the title of the bill or the upcoming act, but if it is love jihad, then it clearly denotes that it is against one particular community. that will be quite sufficient to understand by everybody.
Let me put that question to Dr. Sambit Patra. Can I inverse the proposition on its head and say, what happens if there is a Hindu boy who doesn't reveal to a Muslim girl that he's Hindu and then goes out and marries her? If you label this the Love Jihad bill, then it kind of takes that whole possibility out, and the law must not differentiate on the basis of religion. Dr. Patra.
See, Rahul, if you would remember, I began by saying that this is just a provision, provision which is being contemplated and legal advices are being sought. So, of course, the draft of the proposition is not ready. Whether the word love jihad would be put into the draft or not is something which we are only speculating. And I would rather say that the two words deception and forced conversion, they are the key words as far as the law and legality is concerned, against which no one stands. Of course, every law in this country would be religion neutral, I mean, of course, if any Hindu boy deceives a Muslim girl by projecting that he is a non-Hindu and he is a Muslim boy, he should be punished because he is deceiving someone. But I mean, why are we discussing love jihad? Because we have seen that this proportion of deception is generally in fact, rather it is skewed towards a particular, no, it's not me, it is not me. I'll just complete, I'll come. It's skewed towards a particular community. I derive this from statistical data which was presented both by Omen Chandi and V.S. Achyutanandan on the floor of the assembly in Kerala. Omen Chandi on June 2014 said that from till 2006 to 2014, 2,667 conversions have taken place. And V.S. Achyutanandan in July 2010 said that that in fact love jihad, quote unquote, love jihad is something which is used as a tool by paid propagandists to convert Kerala's demography and make Kerala a Muslim state. So these are chief ministers who are not from our political dispensation. They are chief ministers who are from left and from the Congress party, and they have spoken this on the floor of their respective assemblies. So I derived the data from there.
Dr. Rahmani, respond to that.
The proportion of this kind of deception is more towards the particular community.
I was coming to this point. I was coming only to this point about the Oman Chandi statement, and then I want to quote the landmark case of this country, that was the Hadia and Yashvin Jahan case, for which the Popular Front of India was labelled and again and alleged that they are promoting the forced conversion, forced marriages and love jihad, etc. The case rose from the lower court to the Supreme Court of India, and the Supreme Court ordered, particularly for this love jihad aspect, which is a presumptive term, and court ordered an NIA inquiry, and NIA conducted a thorough inquiry over this thing, and particularly with the specific mention of PFI, and they found nothing at all like that of the love jihad and related to the PFI.
That's also a fact, Dr. Geeta, but wherever this has been examined by the court so far, in all the cases across the country, at least so far, there has been no conviction, no evidence which stands, not charges that are leveled in debates,
approved those marriages,
but no conviction before a court of law which proves that this was part of some grand conspiracy happening on an organized scale.
Well, Rahulji, it is definitely very difficult to, prove it, but there are many instances, and those people who have worked, who have worked with such cases, and especially in Uttar Pradesh, in the last couple of months, there have been a spurt of suicides by young girls who were trapped into marriages by deception, and later on they were being forced to change their religion. You see, there is a much larger conspiracy, Rahulji, involved in it. This is targeted towards a demographic change, and also this is not something which is just happening in India. In Myanmar, a large amount of tension between the Buddhist community, which is largely peaceful, and the Muslim the concern is love jihad. So it is not just in India, across the world, and there is a large amount of money internationally flowing in for this purpose. And I do agree that it is very difficult to pinpoint and to prove it, but on the ground there are a large number of cases, and it is interesting to note that when a police complaint is made and you go to the court to fight the case, the boy's side is able to come forward to fight his case by very, very, the lawyers who are very, very capable, competent and well known. I mean, how do they actually get such kind of a money?
Okay, Dr. Ramasham, here's the charge that if there is a case of forced conversion or marriage by deception, then there must be a law which is religion agnostic, which prevents forced conversions.
Yeah, I think people have already said that we do not need actual laws in this country, certainly.
When we talk about Love Jihad, I have a problem with the semantic system.
Why is religion so overrated in heterosexual relationships? Why aren't we really talking about justice? What would be the objective of all this in that case? If we talk about gender justice, we have got to protect violence of women in any kind of relationship. My partner is a Muslim, for example. I'm certainly not coerced. I live life on my own terms, and so do many other people. So I think we are really here talking without statistics from the ground. As an ethnographer, I have had the privilege of traveling across the length and breadth of this country into the remotest parts of India as within urban arenas. And I see that when we talk about Love Jihad, I have questions against that. Are we taking away the agency of women to make a choice? If we were to talk about gender justice in real terms, we are yet to implement the recommendations made by the Justice Verma Committee report. This country doesn't talk about criminalizing marital rape. When we talk about deception, coercion, of course, there should be no deception, there should be no coercion. But isn't that a question of power imbalance in a patriarchal society? Just look at this. For example, very briefly summarizing it, when a girl marries into a Hindu family, she has all kinds of identity markers. She has Mangal Sutra, she has a bindi to wear. I'm from Bengal, we have sindoor to wear. We have no identity markers for men alike, So what are we really talking about? Are we talking about any kind of justice here? I'm really concerned about the objective of a law like this, especially when the executive head of a state makes, a sweeping comment like this publicly. Or do we take responsibility for the objective that this
so
law
you're
will
asking
serve?
about the Uttar Pradesh Chief Minister saying if you do this, you will be Ram Nam Satya, suggesting that, you will somehow be bumped off, or that they will, you will die. He doesn't explain how that will happen, but it's also in the middle of an election and leaders tend to use rhetoric, but the message was chilling and the message was that you will no longer live. Why is it that in all these laws, Sambit Patra, the women have no agency, that they are assumed to be so gullible that they can't make their own choice? And if it's women you want to help, why not first start by criminalizing marital rape? Dr. Patra.
See, whatabouteries cannot help. Just because there is a defective law somewhere, just because a law is not made about one aspect of society, does not mean that we should argue that we should not have law about a second aspect of the society. Well, yes, you can raise your issues about that issue also, but we should have law about the other things also. I mean, so this whataboutery comparison is not possible. Well, remember, people said that we previously had provisions about triple talaq. Why not put triple talaq under the aegis of domestic violence? But then the Supreme Court said, no, you have to have separate laws. And this is how in a growing democracies, in fact, legalities evolve and people are well protected. Remember, I'm just speaking about two words, not about a third word. It's two words are deception and forced conversion. And I don't see any reason as to why, whatever the proportion, if there are 100 interfaith marriages and if 99 of them are happy marriages, so be it. Let them live happily forever after. But if there is single marriage which is because of deception or because of forced conversion and the girl is being tortured, let the law protect that single girl.
So Mayor Srivastav, Sambit Patra argues this is only about forced conversion and deception. Mayor.
Deception is a presumption, because I have studied all the cases that they have so-called Love Jihad cases, which have all lost in the judicial scrutiny. But the point is that none of that was coercion. None of it was coercion. It was out of sweet will of the girl. And she has stated it. And in this particular case, I agree with Geeta, she is an exceptionally brave girl. Her name is Shalu. She's 23. She was beaten up by her family, locked up in her house for a month. Her own grandmother says, run away or they'll kill you. That's when she runs away and hides in a Mahila Thana and then gets herself arrested so as to save herself. And then when she's presented before the court, she says, all those guys who are, this guy who's accused of gang raping me, part of the gang which raped me, is my husband. And I was all through trying to protect my life for 11
Dr.
months.
Patra, you must come in on the possibility of misuse. That there will be people in society who won't like these interfaith marriages. They'll say, "Phasa diya, jhoot bola, hamari bitiya ko to bataya nahi." And the reality is, in many of those cases, Meher and Rama argue that the girl would have made her own choice, as Rama has and so many others have as well.
See,
and that's why we are the most beautiful and vibrant.
Meher, you must let Sambit Patra speak. 1 second. This is not right, Meher Srivastav. You've just spoken for 1 minute. Once you've stopped, I have now asked Sambit Patra a question. Have the patience to listen to him, Dr. Patra.
See, we are a vibrant democracy and we are a beautiful democracy with a robust judicial system. I mean, any law and every law in this land, or any land for that matter of purpose, has the propensity of being... Can I please speak, Rahul? This is not the way, Rahul. I should not be heckled, at least. Thank you. Rahul, all I want to say is we have a robust judicial system. And if you, I mean, any and every law, be it UAPA, you name the law, dowry laws... Rahul,
Let
this is not
Patra
the way. Why should
speak.
he,
What's
this
your
man
problem?
be
I don't
shaking and
understand.
heckling?
You've just made a long argument. I have the patience to listen to him. Why do you keep intervening? He was listening quietly to when you were speaking.
Rahul, all I was suggesting is we have a judicial system in place, and if there is any problem, if any law is misused, then the judiciary will correct it. And tell me a single law in this country which has not the propensity of not being misused. The dowry laws have the propensity of being misused. That does not mean we should not have laws against dowry. Well, yes, they have been misused. And remember, we are just talking about one side of the story. If Mihir has argued about one particular case, I can argue about 2 cases. Mr. Yogi Adityanath ji, the Chief Minister, gave you the example of the Allahabad High Court, that in fact a couple have had gone to the court, Allahabad High Court, demanding that their family should not interject into their marriage. And the Allahabad High Court said that no forced conversion, only for marriage. And previously
Dr. Ramasham,
the same High Court
Sambit
had
Patra
said
makes
no
the
forced
argument
conversion.
that just because a law may potentially at some point be misused doesn't mean you don't have a law. Dr. One second, Dr. Ramasham.
Will you have any comment about that? Can you?
Dr. Sham?
Yes. Rahul, can you please repeat?
My question is this. Dr. Patra makes the argument that just because a law may have the potential of getting misused doesn't mean you don't bring a law at all.
No, it's not about misusing or not misusing. I began with the semantics of the word love jihad itself. So why do we go into semantics where it really talks about persecution and discrimination, beginning with the linguistic understanding of a law itself? Why are we talking about? Why aren't we? And here we are talking about deception. We are talking about cheating. We are saying deception is wrong. We are saying forced conversion is wrong. However, we need to also think about people making their own choices, whether for marriage or for not marriage. I completely understand the position of the courts when they say that conversion only for marriage is invalid. And we understand that in a patriarchal society, in traditional relationships like these, it is often the woman who succumbs in case of such relationships. And we never talk about it. We really need to look at the structural aspect of gender, the structural aspect of patriarchy and women's agency, instead of ascertaining a religious aspect to this whole question.
Okay, so I'm out of time on this conversation. We've had different points of view. We will track this story as it evolves. Chief Ministers of BJP ruled Uttar Pradesh, Haryana, Madhya Pradesh taking positions.
There's no clarity of what the law will be called, how it will be framed, whether the word love jihad is in the law or not. It's highly unlikely though. But we will see what happens and we'll track every dimension of this case. For the time being, Dr. Geeta Bhatt, Meher Srivastav, Sambit Patra, Dr. T. Rahmani and Dr. Ramasham for joining me on the Newstrack. Thank you very much. When I come back, I'll